What makes this situation emotional is that you likely have no idea how deeply your presence still affects them. While you continue living your life, growing, healing, and moving forward in your own way, they are privately confronting emotions they thought they had already left behind. They never expected one brief moment involving you to unravel so much inside them. Yet now, they find themselves caught between fear and honesty, wondering whether keeping quiet is protecting them or simply delaying a truth that refuses to disappear. The connection they feel toward you is no longer easy to dismiss as nostalgia or curiosity. It has become something steady, something that continues returning no matter how many times they try to push it away. And perhaps the hardest part for them is realizing that your presence does not bring chaos into their life the way they once feared. Instead, it brings clarity. It reminds them of who they were before fear taught them to hide their emotions so carefully. Somewhere deep inside, they know this silence cannot continue forever. Eventually, emotions this strong demand acknowledgement, even if only through one honest conversation. They are beginning to understand that vulnerability is not weakness, and that pretending not to care has become more exhausting than admitting the truth. Right now, they are standing at the edge of a decision they never expected to face again, whether to remain safely distant or finally allow themselves to reconnect with the person who still has the ability to stop their entire world with nothing more than a single unexpected appearance. And I never stopped. They didn't say it out loud, but their reaction said everything they've been trying not to admit. Even now, their mind keeps replaying that exact moment. They keep wondering how seeing you could affect them so deeply after everything. It shocked them how their chest tightened, how their breathing stumbled, how they had to steady themselves before anyone noticed. Because what they felt wasn't something small. It wasn't something a normal person feels when they see just anyone. It was the kind of emotional earthquake that only happens when someone still holds a place inside your soul that cannot be touched, replaced, or ignored. Your face, your message, your update, your picture, your movement. Every wall they built around themselves trembled, and they realized how much of their strength was just an illusion when it comes to you. What they didn't expect is that the universe would bring your energy right in front of them at the very moment they were trying to stay composed. They had convinced themselves they were living fine, functioning normally, staying focused. But the second you appeared, something inside them cracked open. Not in a painful way, in a way that revealed everything they've been suppressing. Their breath nearly escaped them, not because of panic but because some emotions are too heavy to stay hidden. And your presence has a way of waking every dormant feeling they try to silence. It stunned them. It overwhelmed them. It reminded them that no matter how far things went, no matter how silent the days became, you still have a power over their spirit that not even they can understand or control. And here's the real truth, the one they're afraid to face. They didn't just lose their breath when they saw you. They lost their balance, their logic, and every script they had rehearsed about staying distant. Your presence caught them unguarded, vulnerable, exposed. And in that moment, they saw something about you, something real, something pure, something beyond what they expected, that changed everything inside them. Because seeing you again didn't just shock them. It forced them to acknowledge that whatever they feel for you hasn't faded, hasn't weakened, hasn't disappeared. If anything, it has grown louder, stronger, deeper, and they are terrified that the universe keeps showing you to them for a reason they can no longer ignore. My beloved child, something powerful is happening the moment you continue listening, because the reaction they had when they saw your presence was only the beginning. There is a deeper truth unfolding beneath their breathless shock, one that they've been trying to outrun for months, maybe even years. When they saw you, their heart didn't just skip a beat. It jolted awake. It reminded them of every moment they tried to forget, every feeling they tried to smother, every truth they wrapped in silence. And now, they're trying to make sense of why destiny allowed your presence to appear at that exact moment, in that exact place, in that exact form. But they don't know that the universe has been pushing them closer to something they can no longer avoid. Listen closely and stay with me, because what I'm about to reveal next is the part that they themselves are afraid to admit. After that breath-stealing moment, they couldn't continue their day normally. They couldn't walk away, pretend nothing happened, or convince themselves it was just a coincidence. No, they froze because something inside them whispered, "This isn't over." And that whisper wouldn't stop. It followed them like a shadow, pulling at every memory, every emotion, every heartbeat connected to you. They tried to distract themselves, tried to focus, tried to breathe, tried to push their feelings away. But their mind kept circling back to you, back to that moment, back to the shock of seeing you appear where they least expected. You might not know this, but after seeing your presence, their hands trembled slightly. They replayed that moment in their mind a dozen times, trying to understand why it affected them so fiercely. Was it your voice, your face, your message, your update? Or was it the way life itself paused around them, as if everything in their world waited for them to respond? They felt a rush in their chest that no one around them could see, but it shook them from the inside out. They weren't prepared to feel that much all at once. And yet, the universe delivered it to them with no warning. Because some connections are not meant to be hidden. Some truths cannot be suppressed. Some feelings, especially the ones tied to you, demand to be acknowledged. And here's where the story takes a turn. After that overwhelming moment, something inside them shifted. For the first time in a long time, they questioned their own actions, their silence, their distance, their decisions. They started wondering whether walking away, staying quiet, or pretending they were unaffected had been a mistake. The moment they nearly lost their breath, it awakened a part of them they thought had died. A part that still cares, still hopes, still remembers. Their heart is now fighting with their mind, battling between logic and emotion, between what they think is right and what they truly feel inside. And the emotional storm they're experiencing, it's stronger than anything they've felt lately. Now, listen carefully and stay right here with me, because what I'm about to say next is the real reason they couldn't breathe when they saw you. It wasn't just shock. It wasn't just emotion. It was recognition. Recognition of something they thought they'd lost forever. Recognition of the bond that still exists. Recognition of the way your presence awakens something they cannot find anywhere else. Your energy, your spirit, your essence. It all hit them in one powerful wave. And in that wave, they realized something terrifying and beautiful. They are not done with you. Not emotionally, not spiritually, not in destiny. And no matter how hard they try to resist, their heart keeps pulling them back toward you in a way that cannot be explained, only felt. My beloved child, before you take your next breath, you need to understand what happened inside them after that moment of shock, because it didn't fade, it didn't settle, and it definitely didn't calm down. Instead, something even more intense started brewing beneath their ribs. That breath they almost lost, it turned into a storm of emotions they could no longer suppress. Their chest felt heavier, their pulse grew sharper, and the silence around them suddenly felt too loud. They didn't know whether to run, to pause, or to reach out, because your presence didn't just surprise them, it awakened them. What actually happens in moments like this is usually quieter and more human than the mind tends to dramatize. Running into someone you once felt strongly about, or even just seeing a reminder of them, can stir up emotions that were never fully resolved. It doesn't require destiny or hidden signals. It's often the brain reconnecting with a memory that still carries emotional weight. So if they paused, if they looked again longer than expected, it wouldn't be unusual. People often need a moment to process unexpected familiarity, especially when it brings back feelings they thought had settled. What follows that kind of moment is rarely immediate clarity. Instead, it's reflection, questions forming without easy answers, like why it felt so intense, or why it resurfaced at all after time and distance. These thoughts don't always point to something new beginning. Sometimes they simply highlight something unfinished being remembered. And when emotions rise like that, they can feel overwhelming, not because they are destined or extraordinary, but because the human mind gives extra weight to anything tied to attachment or loss. Over time, what matters most isn't interpreting the intensity as a sign, but understanding what it actually represents, a personal emotional response that deserves honesty, not escalation. That honesty might lead to closure, or it might lead to a grounded conversation, but it doesn't need to be framed as collapse or awakening to be real. It's just a person trying to make sense of what they feel in a moment that caught them off guard, and slowly finding their footing again in something familiar yet unresolved, without needing it to mean more than it is. It's not just emotion, it's connection, raw, real, undeniable connection. And they cannot erase that, no matter how hard they try. They tried to breathe slowly, tried to calm their heartbeat, tried to shake it off, but the image of you stayed stuck in their mind, like a mark they couldn't wash away. Their day changed completely after that moment. They couldn't focus, they couldn't pretend nothing happened. They couldn't keep acting like you don't exist in their heart. They kept checking their phone again and again, even though they had no reason to. They kept imagining conversations with you, imagining what they would say if destiny placed you in front of them again. Their thoughts kept drifting toward, what if, maybe, and, was this a sign? And the truth is, a part of them felt like the universe was sending a message they weren't ready for, but couldn't ignore either. Because sometimes, life reveals your heart through moments you never expected. And seeing you again was one of those moments. My beloved child, what comes next will explain why their reaction has only grown stronger since the moment they almost lost their breath. Because after that silent shock, after that emotional tremor in their chest, something inside them began to shift in a way they can no longer fight. They tried to hold themselves together, but the truth is, they've been replaying the moment they saw you again so many times that it has started altering the way they look at their own life. They can't ignore the weight of it anymore. Your presence didn't just reopen old feelings, it exposed a part of their soul they've been hiding from even themselves. They now find themselves thinking about you at the most unexpected times, as if your energy is stitched into every corner of their day. They keep wondering how just a glimpse of you could undo weeks, months, or maybe years of emotional distance. They keep hearing the echo of your voice in moments of silence. They keep sensing your presence even when you're not around. And the craziest part? They didn't choose this. They didn't prepare for this. They didn't even want this wave of emotion to hit them, but it did, and with a force they couldn't suppress. They tried to breathe normally afterward, but their chest felt too full. They tried to distract themselves, but their mind kept drifting back to you. They tried to stay composed, but every time they closed their eyes, the image of you returned with even more intensity than before. They even started noticing signs, little things, small moments, strange coincidences, that made them question whether destiny is pulling at them. They saw something today that reminded them of you. They heard something that brought your memory flooding back. They felt something in their heart that didn't feel random, and each sign made them realize that their connection to you is not just emotional, it's spiritual. something deeper, something bigger than both of you. They're beginning to understand that what they felt when they saw you wasn't just a reaction, it was a revelation, a reminder that no matter how far life pushes you apart, certain souls remain tied together in ways the world cannot explain. They've been trying to calm their mind, but instead, their curiosity about you has grown even more. They're thinking about where you are now, what you're doing, how you're feeling. They wonder if you felt anything the moment your presence crossed into their world again. They wonder if your heart jumped too. They wonder if you sensed the shift the same way they did. They're afraid to admit it out loud, but they're beginning to realize something life-changing. The feelings they once tried to bury never truly died. They were waiting, quiet, patient, hidden, until the universe brought you back into their sight again. And now they're standing at a crossroads inside their own heart, a place where they must decide whether to continue running from what they feel or finally face the truth they've been avoiding. And that truth is this: whatever they felt for you never stopped. It simply went quiet, waiting for the moment you returned. And now that you have, even in the smallest, faintest way, they cannot ignore the pull. They cannot deny the spark. They cannot hide from the connection that refuses to disappear. My beloved child, what I'm about to reveal now is the part they're desperately trying to keep hidden from everyone around them. Because ever since that moment they saw your presence, their emotions have been spiraling into places they never wanted to revisit. They thought they were in control. They thought they had moved on. They thought distance, silence, and time had numbed everything. But the truth? One glimpse of you made those walls they built crumble like they were made of dust. And now, inside them, something powerful is rising. Something they can't stop, can't silence, and can't bury anymore. Since that breath-stealing moment, their mind has become a battlefield. On one side, the logical voice is screaming at them to forget, to stay detached, to pretend they didn't feel what they felt. But the emotional voice, the one connected to you, is louder than it has ever been. It keeps reminding them of how your presence affects them unlike anything else. It keeps replaying the softness in your eyes, the sound of your laughter, the warmth of your energy. They remember tiny things you don't even know they paid attention to. And the more they remember, the harder it becomes for them to lie to themselves. They've been pacing mentally, going back and forth between wanting to reach out to you and being terrified of what that would mean. They're scared because seeing you again awakened hope. Real, raw, unexpected hope. Hope that maybe the story between you two isn't over. And now they're standing in a place where denial is no longer possible. The truth is unfolding within them whether they want it or not. The moment they saw you didn't just steal their breath, it reminded them of the part of their soul that only you can touch. And that realization is changing everything inside them. My beloved child, now we step into the part of the story where their emotions stop being quiet whispers and begin turning into undeniable waves. Ever since that breathless moment when your presence crashed into their world, something inside them has been shifting so intensely that they can no longer pretend they're unaffected. They've been trying, truly trying, to stay composed, to hold their feelings behind closed doors, to act like nothing has changed. But deep within them, something is unraveling, something honest, something raw, something they've been hiding even from themselves. Their thoughts have become louder than their reality. They keep going back to that moment, the exact second your energy crossed into their day, like a spark that refused to die out. It didn't matter whether it was a picture, a message, a glimpse, or a memory resurfacing. Whatever it was, it hit them so directly that their breath caught in their throat. And since then, they've been living in a strange emotional twilight, where everything feels heavier, deeper, sharper. They can't shake the image of you. They can't silence the questions rising in their mind. They can't ignore the way their heart reacts every time your name appears anywhere. What they won't admit out loud, but feel every single moment, is that they've been longing for you far more than they ever let on. They've been asking themselves if fate is trying to tell them something. They've been wondering why the universe brought your presence into their line of sight again, at a moment when they least expected it. They've been questioning whether they ever truly let go, or if they just tried to convince themselves they did. And now, the truth is becoming impossible for them to escape. The feelings they carry for you have never left. They were buried, not erased. Silenced, not destroyed. Waiting, not gone. Ever since they saw you, even the smallest things about life have started reminding them of you. A sound, a color, a time of day, a familiar scent in a room, a phrase that echoes something you once said. It's like their heart has tuned itself back to your frequency without their permission. And though they're trying to resist it, their emotions keep pulling them deeper into the truth they've been trying to avoid. You matter to them in a way they can't explain, in a way they can't hide, in a way they can't replace. You occupy a part of their soul that no one else can touch. And now, as much as they're trying to stay composed, something inside them is beginning to crack open. The more they think about you, the more they realize how empty the distance has felt. The more they remember your presence, the more they miss the comfort you used to bring. The more they replay the moment they saw you, the more they feel the weight of everything left unsaid. They've been trying to bury their feelings under responsibilities, routines, distractions, but nothing works anymore, because the truth has become stronger than their defense. And that truth is pulling them toward you again, whether they admit it or not. They're starting to realize that the moment they almost lost their breath wasn't just emotional, it was a sign, a wake-up call, a reminder that some connections are too powerful to fade, too real to ignore, too deep to walk away from. And now, inside their heart, something is rising, quiet but fierce, a desire to understand. There's a quiet kind of hope that lingers even when someone tries to convince themselves they have moved on. It doesn't arrive loudly or dramatically. It builds in small, private moments when something familiar resurfaces without warning. A place, a phrase, a passing reminder can reopen thoughts that were never fully settled. In that space, the mind begins to question whether what was felt was real, mutual, or simply intensified by timing. And yet, despite all attempts to rationalize it, the feeling of connection doesn't always dissolve on command. It can sit in the background, reshaping how memories are held and revisited. What once felt like distance may start to feel more like unfinished understanding. Not everything about it is clear, and that uncertainty is part of what makes it difficult to fully release. When someone reappears, even indirectly, it can stir emotions that were thought to be resolved. Not because destiny is deciding outcomes, but because the mind naturally returns to what once carried emotional weight. There is a pull toward meaning, toward figuring out whether what existed had depth or was simply a passing chapter. In those moments, people often remember not just the other person, but who they were when they were around them. More open, more alive, sometimes more vulnerable than expected. That reflection can feel disorienting as it blurs the line between past attachment and present reality. And so the hope that remains is less about certainty and more about unanswered questions that still feel emotionally relevant, rather than a fixed promise of what will happen next, and continue to echo quietly in reflection over time. It was the beginning of something awakening inside them, something powerful, emotional, and completely impossible to bury again. For days now, they've been carrying a restlessness in their heart, a heaviness in their chest, a pull they can't explain. Every time they close their eyes, the memory of that moment flashes again. The shock, the stillness, the pause in their breath. They didn't expect to feel anything, but when they saw you, their heart betrayed them. It pushed through their defenses, broke through the walls they spent so long building, and reminded them of everything they've been trying to forget. They've been walking around with that feeling stuck inside them, unsure whether to resist it or surrender to it. They find themselves staring at their phone longer than usual, wondering if you felt anything too. They find themselves rereading old conversations, looking at memories they promised they would never revisit. They find themselves questioning why destiny placed your presence in front of them at that exact moment. Was it coincidence? Was it timing? Or was it the universe trying to pull them back towards something they never truly let go of? Their heart knows the answer, even if their mind refuses to say it out loud. Seeing you again awakened a truth they've been trying to silence for far too long. What's happening inside them right now is not simple. They're battling emotions that are stronger than their logic. They're questioning decisions they made when they thought they were protecting themselves. They're realizing that the distance they tried to create didn't heal anything. It only made them miss you more quietly. And now, all that quiet missing has turned into a loud, undeniable wave every time your name surfaces. They feel it in their chest. Ever since that moment, something about them has felt different in a way they can't fully explain to anyone else. It shows up in the quietest parts of their day, during long drives, unfinished conversations, or those late-night moments when the world finally slows down enough for honest thoughts to surface. Your presence lingers in their mind without effort, not because they are trying to hold on to the memory, but because it keeps returning on its own. They notice it in the way certain songs suddenly sound more personal, in the way ordinary places remind them of things they never expected to miss, and in the strange pause they feel whenever your name appears unexpectedly. What unsettles them most is how deeply this connection reaches beneath the surface. It is no longer just curiosity or nostalgia. It has become something steady, something woven quietly into their thoughts and emotions without permission. They feel it in their breathing when a memory catches them off guard, in the silence after conversations where they almost mentioned you, and in the moments their heart refuses to settle no matter how much they try to distract themselves. Before seeing you again, they believed they had complete control over what they felt. Life had become predictable, manageable, emotionally safe. But one unexpected encounter shifted something permanent inside them. It challenged the version of themselves they had carefully built over time. Since then, they have been carrying the uncomfortable realization that some people leave an imprint too meaningful to fade completely, no matter how much distance or time tries to convince us otherwise.